Hey y'all, welcome back to Watchworthy. I'm your co-host, Miss Chris D.
And it's your boy, Brother Ash.
And on today's episode, we're talking about the two-part Netflix docu-series, Into the Fire, The Lost Daughter. This just came out in 2024, so I highly recommend this one. It really was a good watch. I would consider it definitely watch-worthy for sure. Even though it's a little bit long, it was definitely worth it because I've never heard a crazy story like this before. It really just goes to show a mother's intuition, a mother's will to do anything for her daughter, even if you gave that daughter up for adoption and, you know, you might be her birth mother, but somebody else adopted her and gave her a different life. And so
they should definitely make this into a movie.
I could definitely see this as a movie.
I could see this being a movie,
yes.
for sure. Yeah.
I'm surprised. Maybe it might already be and we don't know, but let us know in the comments if you ever heard of this story before. But yeah, this is definitely a true crime one. So we do want to give you a trigger warning. There's sexual abuse of minors, all that stuff. And the docuseries was really put from the point of view of the mother, Kathy, but there were some other videos and, interrogation videos and jail phone calls put together to really make this a dramatic series. So definitely check it out on Netflix, and Brother Ash is going to kick us off.
Yeah, let's do it. So Kathy and Ed met in a bar back in 1991. They got married very soon after they met, only 10 weeks after they met. They just had really, I guess,
good
great
chemistry,
energy with each other. Yeah. So Kathy was somebody who had a rough life. She had a child when she was a teenager, and her mother, who was very abusive, convinced her to give the girl up for adoption. So after her and Ed had already been married, she, let him know that I have a daughter who I led up for adoption. And, Ed was supportive of her. And, he never really judged her because of it. He was always supportive of her. So 35 years later, in 2010, Kathy gets a letter saying that her daughter was found in a cornfield.
Red flag for me because...
Not alive. It was a dead body.
She was found in the red flag for me is just like, Kathy this whole time thought, oh, hopefully my daughter got adopted by a nice family and she had a great life. Whole time, she's been missing for 20 plus years. Whole time, the girl went missing when she was 14 years old. But she never knew until that letter.
So the only reason why they even sent her that letter was because they needed like an ID match, a DNA match, because since she was adopted, her, adoptive parents couldn't fucking identify the body, so they needed to get in contact with her real mother. They couldn't even give her like her name or nothing like that because she had no rights at all to her child. So the adoption agency and the police were able to reach out to her, but they didn't want to give her any information like we said. So Kathy took it upon herself to look up some information about her daughter, like her birthday and any missing people in Michigan born on the day that her daughter was born. At least she remembered
that. She could know her birthday.
Yeah. And I will say she wasn't the mom that, I don't feel like she was the adoptive mom that didn't want her baby. Right,
like, oh, I never want to hear from this kid again. Like, I feel like she really did have that. Trust me, I feel like she would have kept that baby if she could, but she was 16 years old.
It was really her mother. Her mother was that abusive, and her mother actually, was responsible for why she ended up running away and getting knocked up in the first place, because she was that abusive. So
because she didn't give up the baby till she was 9 months old, so at least she did try.
Yeah. So, she ended up finding some information, and she found her daughter. It was a girl that, had some of her facial features, kind of reminded her. She just looked at her eyes and was like, wow, that's my baby girl. So she finds out that her daughter was born Alexis Miranda Badger, and her name had been changed to Andrea Michelle Bowman, and she went missing in Hamilton, Michigan. So now she's like, oh shit, like now I know who my daughter ended up growing to be. And, apparently, she's still missing. They identified the body and it wasn't her daughter at all. So she's still missing. So she starts this Facebook page called Find Andrea Bowman on Facebook, because she wanted to figure out if any of her classmates, friends, teachers, anybody knew information. I'm sure, one, she wanted to like help find Andrea, but two, she probably just wanted to get to know her daughter. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Red flag for me, because why is it taking the birth mother who didn't even know about her missing Why is it taking 20 years for her to make a Facebook page? Why didn't another friend or family member do this? I mean, she didn't get the letter from the police until like 2010. So I understand like Facebook was just popping off and stuff. But I just feel like it's a red flag for me because it took 20 years for somebody to just keep the cold case going, you know?
Yeah. So her adopted family, let's get into them a little bit, the Bowmans. So Dennis Bowman and his wife, Brenda Bowman, were two people in a small town. They went to high school together. Dennis goes off to the Navy and he gives this whack proposal to her when he comes back that they'll get married. So they started a family in Norfolk, Virginia. That's where he was stationed at. Brenda didn't have great chances of getting pregnant. So they, opted for adoption and, eventually God answered their prayer with Alexis, who ended up being Andrea.
Yeah.
So, so the family eventually moved to the small town of Hamilton, close to Holland, Michigan, where they were, I guess they was close to where they were from originally. So they moved back to Michigan after he was stationed out in Virginia. And he was also stationed like in San Diego. So they had moved around quite a bit.
Yeah, the Navy will move you around.
Yeah. So, it was a type of town, like it was a bunch of churches, small town. Like if you didn't go to church on Sundays, people thought you was a social pariah.
Flag.
Like I hate them American ass like small towns.
We're a small town in America and everybody goes to church and has guns.
We got 10 different churches in this town and you better find your way to one of them come Sunday.
Yeah.
So when Audrey was 13, Brenda got pregnant with her daughter, Vanessa.
It always happens that way when people can't get pregnant, so they adopt and then they go and have a baby.
Yeah, I think she was like just sick or something. And like, she was like, let me just take a pregnant test. And she ended up being pregnant. So she had an adoptive daughter that was now a teenager and
a
real birth daughter by the name of Vanessa, which we don't see a lot of Vanessa.
She's really not in the documentary at all. I was very confused. I was a little troubled because of the stuff we're going to tell you about Andrea. I'm like, what happened to Vanessa?
Can't blame her. High school classmates say that Andrea was very fun. She was bubbly. She was a typical 80s girl. People did say that she kind of, adapted to get along with certain types of people. Like she was the type of person who could be cool with anybody. You know what I'm saying? So, so they love listening to, Madonna, Cyndi Lauper in their rooms. They just, do 80 chick stuff. Like it was literally like something you would see in a movie. Even when things went dark, like you just kind of hated to see it go this way. Cause it's like, fuck, this is like the same story we hear about all the time.
What was going on in the 80s, man?
Look, I'm happy I wasn't born in the 80s.
Yeah.
No offense to 80s babies, but shit. Damn, 90s babies though. We're literally like that next decade.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like she wouldn't have been too much older than us and we'll never get to know her life. Sorry, spoiler alert.
Yeah. Andrea also had a thing with running away. This was the first red flag for me.
Yeah. Because why are you running away from your supposedly nice adoptive family?
Like, I understand being a teenager is hard, but to have, usually when you see kids running away from home a lot, you know what I'm saying? Like that's when you start to question, like, what's home? You feel me? Like, what are you actually running from? So the day she went missing, one day she went missing, right? Andrea was very quiet with her parents. She didn't say too much. Dennis was running some errands. He dropped Brenda off at work and brought back the baby. When he came home,
they brought the baby with them, which was like weird. I don't know why they did that. They claimed in the docuseries, like, oh, we just wanted to, we didn't want to leave the baby with Andrea because we wanted her to do her homework. So that's what their story.
Something like that. But apparently Andrea was really great with her sister though. Like she, was a great big sister apparently. But when they came back home, they realized that some of their money that they had stashed away in their drawer was gone. Andrea was gone. And an overnight bag that was always in the house for when they traveled was also gone. So at first, everybody was looking for her. People was like giving different tips. Like, oh, I saw her down there by the grocery store. Oh, I saw her down there. And people were saying all type of crazy shit. Like, oh, I think she made her way to Indiana.
Yeah.
Like all type of stuff.
That makes me more hopeful if somebody's missing and people say like, oh, I saw her last at the grocery store. But at the same time, it makes me skeptical when there's too many tips because you don't know what to believe.
Yeah, and it's tough because people also start to just put stereotypical situations on you. Like, oh, she was at the drugstore looking for a pregnancy test, and then she ran off with a trucker. Like, okay, like
that's the stories they was telling y'all.
So yeah, she was thought to be a runaway. And when you're a runaway, like police forces don't spend as much time and energy looking for you.
Right.
So yeah,
but red flag for that, because like you said, even if a kid is a runaway, what are they running from? If she's taught to have this nice Christian household, why would she be running away? They should have dug deeper into that.
But it was ironic though, because her mother was also a runaway, and her mother ran away around the same age at 14.
Mm-hmm.
So and I thought that for that to go like full circle like that, and it was just like one of those like eerie moments. And like I said, it was because her mom was abusive. So then I started really thinking, like, was something going on in that household?
Right.
Like, because they were literally like the perfect little funny looking family, like not funny looking in a bad way.
It was like just blonde mom.
Yeah, like Dennis is just
Dennis with glasses and a mustache.
This corny
70s, 80s
Flanders
family.
looking ass dude. Like so Carl Koppelman got involved with the web sleuths in 2009, and he was like a catalyst for getting Alexis/Andrea's case up and moving towards actually finding some news that could be helpful.
Thank God for armchair detectives.
So the first match that the Jane Doe came in 1999 was because of him.
Yeah.
And after 3 years, they tested Kathy's DNA, and it wasn't a match.
Damn.
And it ignited her to, really, really start looking for her.
So just to clarify, that letter that she got, like, oh, we found a body, we think it's your daughter, that wasn't even her.
Yeah.
So now she's like, damn, now I really got to look for her.
But she also kind of felt like,
I'm glad it's not her, I guess.
Yeah, so I guess I still got a chance, but yeah. So Chris Haverdink went to the same school as Andrea. He was a grade ahead, and he remembers that there was barely any talk about her disappearance, and he thought that was odd.
That's terrible.
So you know how it is.
He became the detective on the case. I would too. I would be like, let me help find my old classmate.
So oddly enough, he becomes a detective. Meta McClade, reached out to Kathy in May 2013, and she shared that she was abducted in a gas station in the same town, around, I guess, where her daughter had went missing when the girl was 6. Okay, when Meta was 6 years old. They never caught her abductor. And she wanted to know, like, oh, maybe I should get in touch with this lady looking for her missing daughter, because the guy who abducted me might be the same guy who was responsible for this girl that went missing.
And red flag for that, because again, we're talking about somebody who was abducted at age 6. Here she is 20-some plus years later talking about, oh, they never caught the guy. Maybe he did your daughter too. And I'm just like, these small towns, this is what happens with the small. I don't want to shit on the police, but these small town police departments, they're not equipped for this kind of thing. Like a serial abductor possibly in your town, like, it just makes me mad.
So Meta did some research for herself, and she found that Andrea's father, Dennis Bowman, looked a lot like her abductor. She didn't remember a bunch, but she distinctly remembered like his basic, facial features, facial hair, and the sound of his voice.
Mm-hmm.
So, she also remembered that he drove the abductor drove a red truck, and that was the same truck that Dennis drove.
So that's when the shoe dropped, y'all.
Yeah.
They're saying, oh, Andrea's adoptive dad, he could have done an abduction before. So that makes you think, oh, he's the one telling the story like, oh, I just came home and she was running away.
Yeah. That's
the story you're going with? Okay.
So this time period from like 2010 to 2020, Kathy and Ed been to Michigan a lot. And they went with Carl to do some, interviews with people, asking people around the town different questions. They found cousins of Dennis, Sue, and she said that Andrea was around the family. She was happy-go-lucky, and Andrea seemed like demean kind of.
That's
like,
a red flag for me, because Dennis's own cousin Sue was more than happy to talk in the documentary, and she talked about how when the girl came around the family, she was not happy. So if the cousin is telling us that she wasn't happy at the holiday parties, what's tea? What's the problem?
Yeah, so oddly enough, Kathy actually runs into Brenda at a support group in Michigan.
Awkward.
Like in 2013. And that was a very, very weird meeting, the way that went down.
Brenda's over here like, I'm a struggling mother looking for my daughter too. And
Yeah.
Kathy's like, no, I don't really think you are. I think you're covering something up.
And it was definitely, they kind of looked
Yeah.
at Kathy like, oh, you gave her away though, so.
And that's what I'm saying. I want the audience to realize, y'all, as we're telling this story, like, Kathy was a good mother.
Yeah.
She thought she was doing the right thing by giving her daughter up for adoption. You don't think that you're handing her over to a bad situation.
She had nothing when she was pregnant. And she literally said, if I can't do anything else for my daughter, I'll do this. Like,
Yeah.
I'll give her to a great family. So, Sue says that Dennis and Brenda told her about Andrea running away and that they didn't mention her taking anything. And, you know, they thought that was weird because
they was telling the police she took stuff. She took money.
So now stories starting not to match up. But y'all know how I go. The more you lie, the more you have to work to cover up the lie. So Kathy actually ran into Brenda. And like I said, that was a weird, you know, outing that they had. A friend, Michelle Timmer, remembers that she wasn't really welcome in Andrea's house at all. She witnessed Dennis yelling, screaming at her, chasing her around the house. And, you know, Andrea basically said, oh, you know, it was because I was late off the bus. But her friends are like,
sad.
Her friends are like, nah, like I've been late from the bus stops.
And my parents didn't drag me up the stairs.
So that was a red flag for me. Like,
I was happy to see her old high school friends were in the documentary and they were like, she was a great girl, but her parents seemed off.
She also, like, another friend remembers going to the house and seeing that, like, the parents ate differently than the kids.
That was
like,
sick.
She said one day they was eating, like, burgers and they just made the kids eat, like,
a, quote, leftover sandwich.
which was condiments on bread. That is.
Why would you make your child's friend also eat that?
Yeah.
I can't understand punishing your child with food. But if you're gonna do that, why are you also making the friend eat the nasty ass sandwich? Please put a red flag. Yes.
Red
flag.
That was so unsettling. I hate people that like don't. Oh, y'all eat that like the trash.
We're the parents and we're gonna eat prime
eating
steak.
lobsters and steak while y'all eating fucking mystery meat chicken nuggets from McDonald's. Like.
So as you can see, the story we're telling here, Dennis and Brenda were not as nice as people thought they were.
And Andrea even disclosed to another friend that Dennis was sexually abusing her.
Yeah, red flag.
Now that
your adoptive dad is abusing you sexually.
So, you know, her friends would look out for her too. Like, you know, they would let her stay at their house longer than she was supposed to, give her food, whatever. One woman in the documentary said that the school wasn't helpful when it came to kids being abused. Like, y'all know how it is. Like, they have you sit down in the freaking class, in the principal's office with your parents.
So tell us what happened. In front of my parents?
In front of your abuser. Like, as a child, you're not confident enough that you got to go home with these people, or you're going to end up in somebody's system some type of way. So of course she wasn't.
And now they're probably going to beat you because you told everybody at school.
And then they also, like, you know, was going to, like, you know, the church and stuff, like, and now the church is convincing, you know, you can't lie about your father like this. He's a respectable man in the community. Blase.
Red flag, please, because church is not therapy. That's how they were treating it. They were like, okay, since you want to tell the school that your daddy abused you, go ahead and tell the pastor.
Yeah. So Kathy used the Freedom of Information Act to get Dennis Bowman's record.
I told y'all last episode, if you ask for them records, you can get them. They gonna give you the runaround, but you can get the records because I learned the official title of it. It's the Freedom of Information Act.
So this is where shit really starts
this
to
when
get,
she finds out who really adopted her child.
So he has some shit on his record. 2 incidents. One incident was when he served a year in county jail for possession of a weapon and breaking and entering.
That's bad enough.
Now,
why are you breaking and entering?